We're very lucky on this podcast to do the live tastings that we're able to do. But I've always been a huge fan of the Big Eddie series. And this is my dream come true right now.
So this recipe,
I mean,
the original Cherry Doppelschwartz recipe.
This is...
Jim
I'm
is
a very
having a
humble
moment.
person.
That just made it. That just made it. 2019 blooper reel. Thank you.
Yo, that's the cold open right there.
Cold open, blooper reel, everything combined.
Cheers.
You've stumbled on into the Tap Takeover Podcast. Welcome back to the Tap Takeover Podcast. We're here for part 2 of our supersized interview with Miller Valley Brewing and Kain Escobar. We're sitting down and finishing off this Tap Takeover and finishing off this live tasting. We had more questions. You know, that's what it came down to. When you're dealing with a large brewery like Miller Valley, with who even are the owners now? It's Miller Coors, but there's also...
It's Molson Coors. So,
Molson Coors. There's a lot going on with Miller, with the parent company, but there's also a lot going on with this small pilot brewing that you guys are doing. So tell us about this beer that we're drinking, and
Tell us about how it is to work at Miller, because everybody knows the stories.
Sure.
But I don't think it's like that anymore. But you said there's still maybe some aspects of the
No,
Wild West.
Yes, the Wild West definitely has changed, become modernized.
Goddamn OSHA.
Right? Let me tell you what you guys are drinking. So you're drinking a 2012 Russian Imperial that was aged in Heaven Hill bourbon barrels.
Oh, man.
This is the Big Eddie's recipe.
Yeah.
So,
You're
like, this tastes familiar, right? Yep.
you're talking to 4 big fans of the Big Eddie
Good.
series.
Well,
By
good.
the
So-
way, if Dick is listening to this, Dick, bring this back. Thank you.
Yeah, it was very, very sad for them to take that off. To me, that was kind of like Viney's street cred. I hear rumors that it hasn't been completely squashed. It's kind of just on the back
No,
burner.
it's been retired, according to Dick.
Well,
but-
it may come back. There's talks. So who knows? I mean,
well, it's a fantastic beer. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. I think there needs to be some changes to the recipe to make it a little bit more modern. A lot of oatmeals in the modern stouts, the mellow out, the kind of
Sure.
bitterness, and the alcohol, which you are a master at hiding alcohol. So hopefully you're involved with any revitalization of the Big Eddie series.
Well, you hit some alcohol in this.
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah,
is
yeah.
this? Because it doesn't seem like it's...
let's see. This is the 2012. So this one's 10.6.
Jesus, what are you trying to do to us?
Oh boy.
This is fantastic. I love this. It's not hot, super smooth, great nose. I mean, it has everything that I love in these aged beers. It's just
Actually, hold on. Was this the
fantastic.
barrel age? You
Yes.
mean the bourbon? Yes.
Yeah.
The bourbon's actually 11.2.
This is great. It's just does not come off hot. It is just amazing.
Yeah.
Really smooth.
I'd completely disagree with Jim. I wouldn't change a fucking thing. I mean, this is
Really? Because
I would-
there's some of that sharpness from the old
No,
school RS.
no,
right?
I'm gonna
the
disagree
old
with Jim as
school
well.
barrel-aged, non-adjunct.
Especially when you're talking about
RSs.
6 years later, you have no idea what that original beer tasted like, Jim.
I would definitely. I'd put this up against any special release barrel-aged Russian Imperial Stout that's being released right now.
This thing is fantastic. This is really well done, and the barrel aging on this. How long was this in the barrels?
Yeah, this one's 2.5 months.
Going back to your whole, like, it just needs a couple months, right?
Dude,
just to
yeah.
keep...
Fight with a lot of the guys that I know that do the barrel aging for that fact that they feel like they need to put it in there, and again, it's all about balance. To me, if you're putting a beer in a barrel, you're only accenting the beer. You're not. If I wanted whiskey, I'd go buy a bottle of whiskey. I don't want my beer to taste like complete booze. I want a beer that's balanced, but it's highlighted by what it's put into.
What do you think adding something or leaving this in the barrels longer would do to it? Really, I mean, because we've had some pretty good beers that were left in the barrels for
I agree with
ages.
that. I agree with that. I have had some, and you'll try the Cherry Dop, which is in for like 3.5, almost 4 years. So that's the art part, right? So it's really a balance of your taste buds and how you're blending it. So I'm 100% one of those guys that I will blend to make a balanced product. So if I pull something out and it's not balanced, you sure as hell know that I'm gonna pull the original base. I always have a safety net. I always keep some base. I always keep the original base to blend that down to balance it out. You have to.
Well, and that is the art that goes into brewing, is that blending to make sure that the beer you're producing is the best it can be.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
individual barrels just generally do not turn out as well as you would like.
They do not.
Okay, so that beer that was aged for 3 years plus.
Yeah.
So you did the whole tasting thing throughout the whole process?
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I'm wondering. It's like why is
that
this?
that one's got a different story though.
Okay, tell us the story.
You want that? You want the story now? Or you want
Well,
it once
we
you're
should
tasting it?
probably pour it up.
All right, it sounds like a good idea. This is Hugs and Kisses. So this is a 2014 brandy barrel aged cherry Doppelschwartz.
I love how Steve's most favorite beers are like the biggest, most barrel-aged beers.
I know, right?
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah, I really like Steve.
This is a weird beer. When they were starting to do the demo of the bakery at the 10th Street Brewery, we went over there and they were cleaning house, and they had just a stack of barrels that were filled with cherry Doppelschwartz. And so I have good rapport with the guys over there, and I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? It's like, we're gonna have to just dump them all. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no. Do interplant transfer, send them over to my place. So I collected all these barrels, just had a stack of them. And so weeded through them out. I just tasted every single barrel. Some were already kind of not so good, so it's instant dump. Those others I can play around with. So then I took those, aseptically filtered them into a tank, and then did kind of a secondary on Dora County sour cherries. Finished them
Okay,
off on
so
that.
this wasn't originally a cherry beer.
No,
that was the secondary.
Yes.
You know what? It actually sounds like very similar to, we just talked with Revolution Brewing, and they do their Sanctuary series, where if they have a barrel that goes bad, they'll rejuvenate that, they'll bring it back to life in their Sanctuary series, and with something else, they'll age it in something else,
Sure.
and that'll be a new kind of thing. It sounds a lot like what you guys did here, where it was kind of like rejuvenating a beer that was maybe going bad, and
Well, not so much, no, because I nitpicked every single barrel and tasted each one. And so it had to meet my criteria before I even said, yes, it's going to go in my tank. I'm going to even move forward with it. So, I mean, even from the start, I have an idea of what I'm going to be doing with it.
This is absolutely blowing my mind. I mean, this is more than it could ever be.
So we have this stashed away in the cooler. Sometimes I'll bring out some bottles now and again, and Steve yells at me. He's always, playing the mom. He's like, no, don't put that out. No, that's ours. It's ours. It's for special occasions. It's like the Holy Grail sitting in our cooler.
this is really fantastic. A cherry double Schwartz. You're talking about a dark beer to begin with, so it's got some of those roasted flavors, some of those chocolate flavors, but not to the extent of like a stout or a
of course not,
porter.
yeah.
But so it plays better with the cherry. The cherry is really up front on this one. The cherry
Yes.
is kind of the star of the show.
But I also want to go back to something you said, which we say balance. Man, that balance is amazing because I'm trying. It's just that little bit of tartness, that
Yes.
little bit of
Oh, yeah.
sweetness, just that malt backbone. It's just a fantastic beer.
That's absolutely right.
So the base actually had already a nice little sweetness to it, and so we're like, well, obviously we're not going to add some more more sweetness, so let's go with a sour to kind of balance that out.
Yeah, it's-
So, and we do a lot of bench tops actually, so we'll take a portion and maybe kind of do maybe a little small corny keg or a little beaker size sample and do our little experiments on the side to justify. Oh yeah, we should probably do this.
But I mean, you're doing things that a lot of craft breweries aren't doing here as well. Is that you're taking different styles of beer, and you're adding different flavor profiles to them. Like a lot of the craft breweries are going to take the IPAs and the imperial stouts and add different flavor profiles. But the Schwartz beer and tonic beer, I mean, Jesus,
I mean, what the fuck are you doing?
well, no, it was like Working Draft had that
Yes,
that
yes.
red.
Yeah, or it's like Central
amazing.
Waters takes an Oktoberfest and barrel ages it. Like that kind of crazy experimentation.
Yeah, we've done some cool stuff. We actually did a Vienna style Mexican lager with passion fruit, and then I put it in tequila barrels. I wish I had some for you guys, but that was earlier this year. It's called Latin Passion.
So something like that, where does it go? I mean, you just made a smaller batch of it, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah. So
Go.
so kind of our beer has a couple homes of where it ends up. Consumer studies, sales samples. It goes to the requester. So if they have specific analyticals they got to run, stuff like that, it'll go specifically to that requester. It goes to some of the select breweries. So if they need to eventually run a trial for it, they'll get some product to kind of flavor match and do that portion of it, along with nutritionals. So yes, it is going to the government.
Wow.
And then festivals, so a lot of the fun stuff, you'll see it at the festivals, special events, things of that nature. And then drain. That's kind of disheartening. I mean, we'll brew maybe 10 barrels of something, and a requester may only need 15 cases. Well, the rest isn't down the drain. It's nature of the business, the name of science, right? It's the nature of the business, but it's a reality thing. And then, of course, our beer fridge over here is fully stocked at work. But
So where can people follow you and find out what beer festivals you're at?
oh yeah, so again with the Black Ops thing, we exist, but we don't exist.
Oh, you just show up like
The radar.
you have to actually check with the beer festival itself to see
You
if
gotta
you show up
know
on the menu.
you gotta know a guy that knows a guy.
Well, we know the guy.
Yeah, right. No, so I am hoping we'll see what marketing lets me do. I am hoping to maybe do kind of like a Facebook page just to kind of give people a heads up. Hey, we're going to this festival. We're going to be in Illinois. We're going to be here. So that's kind of the hope. But right now, the only thing kind of out there social media wise that says anything about us is Untapped. That's about it.
So it's really the festivals themselves. I mean, you went to 22
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
Pretty much every festival in the Southeast
Anything
region.
local, yeah. I mean, if it's local Milwaukee, like in the general area, you'll always see me there.
I know that was my very first question to you is, like, how do you work this many beer festivals? It's got to be hard for you personally.
Yeah, it's rough.
We got
I
a
mean,
little Oprah moment here.
I know, right?
Yeah, I know. Dr. Phil.
Yeah, the dog definitely hates me at home. I love what I do. It's my passion, my drive, my business. It's me as a professional. So it's kind of all folds all together.
And when that's your only opportunity to present it to the public, you got to really, relish that opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
When you're passionate and you're happy about your product and it means a lot to you, you put your heart and soul into it. You want to showcase it. You want to let people enjoy it. Does you no good sitting in the cooler, right? So
Or down the drain.
or down the drain.
So, what festivals did you hit in Illinois, and what are on your hopes and dreams for next year as far as the festival season goes?
I hit the Chicago Beer Classic. That was fun. Besides running 2 shifts by myself in 90-degree weather, partially getting heat stroke. Yeah, that was cool. But
Or not.
they're not. But it was good being on Soldier Field. It was pretty fun. I've done 2 of them at the museum. So Rare and Wild Beer Fest, and then there was another one at the museum, it was a blast. I mean, those are always so much fun. Being in a museum, being able to see the exhibits and
Near
people drinking beer
Near
and,
the Sioux.
Yeah,
King
near the
Sioux.
Sioux, exactly. Yeah, so that was very fun. Those have, I think I probably only hit like 3 or 4 in Illinois.
Before we ended for the first episode, leading into the second, you said you had some cool stories just being in here. Can you tell us some of those?
Oh man, cool, funny, or suck days, or what?
All
All of the above.
Man, Jesus, we have too many.
Well, Suck Days is today
Yeah,
with
well-
hanging out with us.
I had a
Oh,
drink.
Jim.
too many to
Specifically.
tell. I do. Well, actually, I do have 3 that pop to mind. Like
Do it.
instantly right away. So.
Nice.
And we should
it's-
drink the last one as we do this.
I think we should as well. So it's gonna go.
All right. What's our story beer?
It's gonna be a poop story, an IED story, and a caustic story.
Oh boy! Oh, we got the full gambit. The full
Full
Yahtzee.
lineup.
Wow.
So
Door County cherries are awesome.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. So 2 of these actually have our temporary employee that we had once upon a time no longer works with us. 2 of them involve him.
2
2 of them.
Two of them.
So they're good. So let's just start with the caustic story. So Steve told me to make sure I tell this one. So
All right.
So so we
Steve
got
approved.
Steve approved.
I like Steve. Why are you here?
Why you know it here?
Why is Steve not here?
So we had this guy that was working as a temp for us. He was not doing a great job, and so he got chemicals on him a couple times. Yeah, well,
Chemicals on you.
on him, yes. So Steve told him at one point, if you get caustic on yourself again, you're not going to be able to work down here.
Wait.
Time out.
How many chances do you get with the caustic
Hold on. It gets better.
Can we give some to Jim?
You really are like a
Even
microbrewery.
I know better.
You
You
have
don't fuss with caustic.
So
Holy shit, dude.
so we tell this guy, we're like, all right, if you get caustic on yourself again, you're not going to be able to work down here. We're not going to be able to have this.
The liability.
Exactly. We have a liability. So he's like, okay.
Or your skin,
Well, yeah. So he's like, okay, all right, fine. So we give him a task. We're like, go CIP those tanks. So Steve walks past his office, kind of does a double take. This guy is just drenched. And he goes up to him, he's like, what happened? He's like, I was sweating. He goes,
Wow, that's a lot of sweat.
He goes, did you get caustic on yourself? He's like, no, I was CIPing and I was sweating. And he's just took the freaking safety shower and he's completely drenched. And we're like, okay, yeah, you were sweating, sure. And we just continue our day and we're like, Jesus Christ.
Sweating as much as a
liability.
That's crazy basic. That shit eats organic material, right? Which is why you clean in place.
Yes, so why there's a clean in place, and when you're not safe around it and you don't know how to operate, you shouldn't be using it. So that was kind of one of our oh boy moments. The second one leading to him as well, unnamed, is the IED story. Where it was his last day, and
Same guy?
same dude.
Oh, last day, same guy.
Last dude.
I don't want you or
should've just
Steven.
cut
I
the-
want this guy.
Cut the strings on a Friday. You know, you're going home for the weekend. Don't come back.
His last day is Friday. Yep. So
This Friday? Like tomorrow?
No, this was a while ago. So his game plan for that day was like, hey, here's some dirty yeast canisters, still half full of yeast. You know, go take care of these, clean them, whatever. And so we have a cleaning trough where we put all our canisters, and you know, someone from our small side usually runs them to the washer and cleans them and all that. And so we had this gal working for us as a temp at that time. And so this was a Friday that we told them to do this. So last day, all right, bye, so long, hurrah. The canisters were left in the trough. Next week, I don't even remember. It was probably midweek. She comes in, is getting ready to clean canisters, and the pressure relief was never relieved. So what happens to yeast?
Oh boy!
It starts expanding and fermenting and producing gas. So a little bomb was created, and instead of thinking, oh yeah, I should probably release the relief on here, she went ahead and just took off the lid, and it like geysered up 20, or hit our 20-foot ceiling, geysered all the way to the
tall ceiling.
geysered all the way to the top, made its way around the wall into our small side brewery. It was just all over the place. I mean, the guys that work in beer and know yeast baths are not fun. So this stuff was everywhere. So the whole second half of the day, she was just hosing off the ceiling because it was everywhere. That was our little yeast IED that was planted.
Hose and test, right?
Yeah, no joke.
Wow. I mean that just one. I'm actually surprised she was actually able to open it.
I was
with that much
shocked as
pressure,
well,
right?
yeah.
Because at some point you're yanking on that, going, "What the hell's going on?" You think
I don't know, but you figured it would have clicked, right? But no. So it exploded, and there you go.
Oh man!
So
You got another one?
I got the last one.
Before we get into the next story, let's
All
talk
right.
about the beer we're
All right,
drinking.
so you guys had a 2015 or 2012 Russian Imperial, right? This is the 2015 Russian Imperial.
Yeah.
That we put into bullet rye barrels. Barrel aged bullet rye barrels, got a little bit of spiciness in there.
definitely the sharpness is down on this from the 2012.
Really, funny enough,
Yeah.
I feel the sharpness is higher, and I don't know if it's due to the rye
So do I.
or the
actually.
There's
batch.
spiciness from the rye.
The 15 and the 12, when we tasted the bases, the 15 had a little more of a sharp bite to it.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
think it
the
has
rye.
more of a bite. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree with you. I think it's the rye. I'm drinking them both side by side right now, and the 2012 it's very soft. And
It is.
It's got a fruit forward flavor. You know, some of those dark fruits are coming forward. With the latter one, it's definitely the rye. It's all.
Oh, yeah.
about
Oh,
that-
rye.
it's
Yep.
that-
There's a
that
huge amount of
sweet,
spice.
spicy,
Yes.
rye
A lot of
kind
rye.
flavor is fully prevalent.
But it's still balanced. It really
course,
is.
yeah.
It's still very
Again,
balanced.
1 to 2 months.
No, it's a great beer. It's very balanced. But yeah, I get that little bit of a. It's just a little spiciness.
Yeah.
A little.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is the last one. So, all right.
Yeah, I know.
I think we're ready for this
I'm
last
I'm
story.
sure I can always dig something out, but the poop story.
At this
The
point, we
poop
can drink.
story.
At this point, we can drink stuff room temperature. It does not matter.
Oh, please. Everything's in the cooler. We're good to go. So I got to give all the credit to Steve on this.
Speaking of room temperature,
Yeah.
let's hear that poop story.
You're responsible for the
Steve.
poop story, Steve.
Yeah, Steve is responsible for the poop story, and the aftermath is just phenomenal.
Are you absolutely sure you can tell this
Oh,
story?
I could tell this because it's
All
not
right.
actual poop.
All
No.
right.
So we were dropping yeast one day from our fermenters, And so one was just plugged. We could not unplug this tank, and we put counter pressure and everything. We finally got the plug to come out, and it was probably like maybe a 6-inch plug of yeast and hot material and trub, just compacted. I mean, just solid. And so we're looking at it, and we're like, you know what that looks like? And we're like, yep, I know what that looks like. Okay. So he picks it up with a sheet of paper, places it right next to the toilet in our so we have our own little private bathroom down in Pilot. So places it right next to the toilet in our private bathroom. And so we're hoping someone from the shift is going to walk in. It couldn't have been any better. Here comes our boss coming down the hallway, and we're like, oh geez. He walks in, and we're looking at each other, we're like, oh shit, is this going to happen? Oh man, all right, it's going to be any better. So then all of a sudden, our boss walks out, kind of with a pause, starts walking towards us. He's like, I don't know who did it. Someone took crap next to the toilet, and I'm not picking it up. He's like, I'm not calling our cleaning guy. He's like, I'm not calling him and telling him this happened.
Leave it for third shift.
We have people.
My favorite part, and without to say names, is Steve goes, oh yeah, so-and-so just came out of there. It's like, oh man, just throw him out of the bus. He's like, what, really? No, it's a yeast plug. Calm down. But it looks so real. It was great.
You guys have such a good time, man.
Yeah, well, it's a good camaraderie down here, and it is. You were asking about the old days, and so when you talk about them, and you got a lot of old timers talking about the good old Miller old days when Philip Morris ran the show, Big Tobacco,
right? Big Tobacco running big
beer. Yeah, exactly. You had one guy's sole job was to go around the break rooms and stock the fridges with beer and the whatever cigarette holders with cigarettes. That was his job, and people would come off their shift or go on break. They'd slam a beer or two and go back to work. And so it's kind of, you think about it in today's mindset, it's like, oh my God, that's not acceptable. That's weird. So it is a weird realm. And so we're probably as good as it gets to the good old days. I mean, we're both advanced trained panelists, so we'll go upstairs and do advanced panel. We taste our products when we need to. So if something's like, hey, in question, we should probably try this cherry Doppelschwartz. It's been sitting there for a while. We make sure it's shelf stable. Well, so we'll crack one open, get a little taste, and good.
Yeah, we'll come back in a couple months. Yeah. Going from the old days to the here and now in the Midwest and locally in Milwaukee,
sure.
And maybe wherever you expand your prowesses in the Midwest. What are some of your favorite local craft beers and craft breweries right now?
Craft breweries, I'm good friends with a couple guys locally. Good friends with Third Space, Eagle Park, boys from Milwaukee Brewing Company. I gotta give as far as the barrel age game, because I love me some barrel aged products, and I try to play in that realm as much as they let me. But I got to give it hands down to Central Waters. I mean, those guys are absolutely phenomenal. I love what they're doing. I was at their place a couple months ago for a Master Brewers Conference and got the tour down the
Simon's killing it.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it is awesome. Like walking down that hallway of nothing but barrels. It's something I wish I had. Something I wish I'd be able to get the opportunity to play with. But
I was just there this past weekend for the Central Waters CW Maple for the beanies, trees, maple bourbon barrels. Central Waters is doing such amazing things with their barrel aging program. This is an interesting question because you talked about what barrels could be after 3 months and how much barrel character you can get within 3 months. The interesting part is Central Waters is doing that stuff for like 3 years. 3 years on their Black Gold, 2 years on their Central Waters anniversary beers. You've done some stuff for 2 years as opposed to a shorter amount of time. Where do you fall on the barrel aging? And something that we always ask a lot of our brewers, where do you fall on the cellar aging? So after a beer has been bought, after it's been barrel aged, and after it's been bought, where do you fall on the cellar aging? Do you think it's a fun experiment, or do you think there's a real reason to age some of those beers?
Man, so kind of just let me start with the cellar aging portion of it. Some of it does make sense, especially if you still have critters in your beer, and when I mean critters, I mean whether it's live bacteria, yeast. Obviously, there's going to be a maturation process going on in that bottle. Like for us, we don't really worry about it too much. One, because I'm overly paranoid, so I aseptically filter everything before coming out of a barrel. and I still pasteurize it. So there's kind of a twofold, because I don't want anything live in my bottle. So when I produce beer, it's like, all right, as soon as it's out, that's as good as it's gonna get. Maybe there is some maturation that improves flavor. Maybe there's some oxidation that kind of balances out something else. So, and that is very, very viable with some, and very, very much
Yeah,
a
do you think
aspect
you
with some beers.
Do you think you lose anything with the process that you go through? Where I mean, sometimes there's things that happen that you don't expect, but with the process that you go through, it sounds very aseptic.
So yeah, the aseptic portion, I do strip a lot of the essence from the barrel aged beers themselves, but to me, it's kind of like end game reward. Do I know my beer is going to be clean and I'm not going to have any issues once it's bottled? Yes. If I was to just pull it out of the barrel, send it into my tank, now I have the possibility of inoculating my tank with something I don't want.
And that's a big tank.
Oh, yeah, which could run rampant and then move from tank to tank, and then I could have a larger scale problem.
It's a legitimate concern.
Do you move from your scale though to like larger systems for
Yes.
what you're doing?
Yes. Yeah. So so a lot of our stuff feeds the Milwaukee plant, feeds the Texas plant. So we feed everything.
Okay.
I mean, so I'm feeding breweries that are.
It's
I can't really talk too much to some of the other breweries,
it's a risk reward.
but yeah, for everything that we're feeding to, let's just say Texas, because I came from there, so I know. I mean, you're feeding 1,100
Yeah.
barrel, kettles, and
Yeah.
600 barrel kettles. I think here there are 500. I could be wrong. I think there's multiple 500 barrels. So I mean, the scale up is huge.
Too much for people to comprehend.
Yeah, what's a few kettles between friends, right?
Right. So that's why we feel the hurt first. Is it's better off to figure out a problem at a 10 barrel scale than moving it up to several.
But it
several
forces
hundred.
you to be extremely careful as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very meticulous. I mean, we record keeping everything. I mean, we were made to mimic the big breweries. That was our job for the scale up purposes.
So really coming off that, and I'm going to put you a little bit on the stage here, Kain, though. Is there any benefit to bottle conditioning?
Yes. I mean, you talk to the Belgians right there. I mean, everything's bottle conditioned with it.
Despite the risk, obviously. I mean, you do everything to minimize risk, and that's your job. But that's what you get paid for.
Sure. I mean, you do think about it. Yes, there's a risk. Maybe the secondary fermentation of the bottle doesn't go well, and you get zero carbonation. Right? There's more of a risk factor with that. But yeah, I do say there is a foolproof kind of good reason for secondary conditioning. Certain beers don't need it. But again, if you're talking like Belgian realm, yes. So we used to have a couple Belgian beers under our portfolio, St. Stephanus, Red Shield. And so beers like that were bottle conditioned. I mean, they were phenomenal products. Could I probably mimic that force carving? Probably not. In all reality, I mean, I don't know enough about it. It's kind of like, that constant learn factor. Would I like to? Oh, heck yeah, I'd like to try to mimic it, right? Exactly, just like the milk stout. Who else has a non-dairy milk stout out there? I mean, there's so much technology out there. I mean, even in the whiskey industry, you're having chemically modified whiskeys that are supposed to mimic certain age, like a certain age of barrel aging. It's crazy. The technology, the knowledge base that's out there.
The chemical engineering, yeah.
The chemical engineering, yeah. It's crazy.
One thing I want to know about is that we keep on talking about this barrel age program.
Yes.
What about sours?
Well, okay.
So do we hit pause and get a sour? We can do that.
Oh, I think it's going to happen.
I think it's happening. Okay, it's not a true sour.
It's okay.
It's not a true sour. The sour business, it's kind of cut to a minimum for us. We do very kind of bare bones, just for the fact that we don't want to inoculate any of our equipment. And again, if I do a sour or something in a barrel, it gets aseptically filtered before it even touches a tank. We did Tropic Thunder last year, which was a sour IPA. So, and it wasn't overly sour; it just had a little slight tang to it from the organic acids.
Okay.
But it was a blend of 5 different beers into a previously used sour barrel that I had.
Wow.
So I just kept re-inoculating. I mean, this barrel, I think I probably ripped through it 5 times. So it was probably the 5th time when I got that IPA into it. So we originally did it for our VP of Ops that retired. We did a cherry sour for him.
Nice.
So Dr. Ryder, I'm sure a lot of people have heard his name.
Now working at City Lights.
Yep. There you go. Yeah. So we did a retirement beer for them, and it was a cherry sour. Oh, that was a fun beer. We did three different barrels, all red wine barrels. But we did Brett, Malolacto, and Lacto.
Wow,
And
awesome!
then blend
Awesome
them
for
all
the
back
Milwaukee King of Yeast. I mean, really,
right?
right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So we do dabble. We do dabble in that. It's a little,
It's
mellow.
challenging.
It's a little challenging,
It's
a little
gotta be
mellowed
very
down.
challenging, yeah.
It is for being aseptic, and really, we think about a lot of mixed fermentation or wild yeast is putting your beer out in the open, which is the antithesis of what you do.
Yeah.
To be as aseptic as possible.
Well,
Yeah.
we are very fortunate to have, like I said, our corporate labs upstairs. So, even though it's not completely their job, we harass our micro guys upstairs, and they help us out and really support us to keep a clean process throughout.
And I would imagine that must excite them just a touch. They actually look at some microbes rather than say, oh, yeah, this is a clean beer, this is a clean beer.
A little bit. I mean, obviously, when something pops out, you know there's a problem, right? So it's like, yeah, it's the good and the bad. It's like, ooh, cool, but oh crap.
All right. Well, I think we've taken enough of your time. You have a date to get to, but it's not going to happen. So
It sounds like you guys want the Frankenberry.
that lovely lady.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Oh man, the murmurs say yes.
Are we going to have that?
Yeah, I'll pull. How about I pull you a Frankenberry and a chocolate lager to finish it?
When we come back, we're going to have those two beers, and we're going to talk about Flying Hippo.
Okay.
We'll be right back. We're back. Kain, what you got for us, man?
All right.
You went into the vault, right?
I went into the vault. Yes. You guys are talking about kind of sours and bacteria, and so I pulled out Frankenberry, which is kind of a monster that we created. So again, I tell you about the whole blending portion of it. So this is a hodgepodge of a couple beers I blended together with raspberry puree, put it into a sour barrel briefly. So just to get the organic acids up there from the lacto that was in the barrel. Not to get any barrel component, but just get a little bit of organic acid. So it went in there for probably a month and then came right back out, and we finished it off.
Now,
But
are these like something that you saved from going down the drain, or is
this was a second use barrel. So we actually we made a beer called Salted Pleasure. It was essentially our chocolate lager on steroids. It was a high grav chocolate lager with some modifications to the recipe to just get it a little more robust, and we barrel aged it in bourbon barrels. And so we emptied it, let the barrel sit for a bit, and then refilled them with this guy and some raspberry puree, and re-fermented it a little bit.
It's
There
really
are
nice.
there is no cereal in here whatsoever. It's the reason the Frankenberry was the berry because of raspberries, and the Frank because it is complete hodgepodge. Like I said, about 5 different beers in here, just a whole little blend.
But this really goes to show how beer blending can really enhance a beer, and I don't want to say rescue it, but really create a whole new beer upon itself.
Blending and cutting is the name of the game, my friend. And a lot of guys don't like it. They use the word dilution. I hate that word. It's a bad word.
There's no dilution. You didn't put water in here.
We use cut. We cut product. So we are naturally high gravity brewers. So I wish I had some of this for you guys, but Coors Light is a 9% beer. We brew it at 9%.
What?
Stock Coors Light is awesome.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
this is
shit,
like
it did, yes.
gotcha journalism.
No,
breaking
yeah,
news,
this is
everything.
Not even. It was volunteered. Yeah.
So is this like when people say that Guinness is better at the tap in Ireland, that kind of thing?
Oh, no,
Can
it's
I
just better, fresher.
Can I get a 9% Coors in Colorado?
I think that's the freshness part. No, but again, we're high gravity brewers. We think in the mindset of being able to utilize your equipment to
Peak efficiency.
to produce the most that you can out of what you have, right? So if you have a 3-barrel brew house, if you were to give me a 3-barrel brew house, I would instantly do a couple extra installs of pieces of equipment, and I'd be brewing like I had a 6-barrel, So it's the science mixed in with the art, is being able to utilize your equipment.
What would be your first 6 beers on a 6-barrel brew house? You have your own brew house.
My own brew house.
Total hypothetical. You got your own brew house. What would be your first 6 beers?
I mean, your basics, light lager. Well, actually, no, I changed that up. So I would have a lager, either light lager, regular lager, pale ale, your IPA, your stout, a flavored malt beverage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's where a lot of people don't they'll be like, oh, what? Yes. I would have a flavored malt beverage of some sort. And then the last one is kind of the goose chase, whether I wanted to go a little sour or wanted to do some barrel aging, and yeah.
What sort of IPA would you go for? Would you go the New England style routes, or would you?
No.
What are your thoughts on that? Because we've been all over the board, from fad to like it's here to stay.
So I've shaken the gate multiple times with this because I've had a lot of fans and friends be like, so when are you making a hazy IPA? When are you making a,
Kain, when?
I was like, never. I won't do it. So
Why not? Why not?
do you want my honest opinion? Or
Yes.
the fluffed opinion.
No, honest.
No,
honest.
honestly, I mean, because beer's a consumption game.
I'll tell you what. Give
So-
us the opinion that we're going to confront you with in 2 years when you start making IPA.
Yeah, I still won't be doing that. In my opinion, obviously it's become a category, and there are some brewers that are doing it well, right? They are doing a good job on it. But my biggest gripe is that it's opened up the gate for poor processing and poor production. That's kind of been my biggest pet peeve and like anti-haze, because you're getting guys that are like, oh yeah, if I just rack a glass off the bottom of my fermenter and it's all yeast, that's a hazy IPA. No, not quite. And I first experienced this when I went to CBC in DC, and we got this is my first time grabbing a New England IPA. I was like, oh, what the heck is this? Had it, and I'm like looking at it, it's all hazy and chunky. I mean, I'm used to making crystal clear beers, that are shelf stable, calorically stabilized. So I'm like, all right, yeah, sure. I didn't really know how to take it. I took a sip. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's like I just sucked the bottom of my fermenter. Jeez. and like it's so chunky you can chew it. So that right there, I mean, nope, not for me.
Do you think that's your background with like just quality control?
I think part of it is that. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe it's just my niche as a brewer where I want to make like the highest quality product that can stay on the shelf the longest.
Yeah, it's shelf stability.
It's all about shelf stability, man. At the end of the day,
That leads you towards clear beer.
Yeah,
for sure.
At the end of the day, I mean, you have something on the shelf. It can be a phenomenal product, but if it goes bad after a week or two, then hey, there you go.
Well, that's the whole point of those beers. Right? It's like you have to drink them like in the first couple weeks,
and that shouldn't be the case.
That should not. Yeah.
Now, if I'm making something that's supposed to be cloudy, supposed to be look hazy, then I'll incorporate other techniques. Maybe I'll force chill haze to incorporate that hazy character. But maybe, it's still as shelf stable as any other product.
So don't you view it as a challenge, though? I mean, I would challenge you today, throw down.
But I still won't make you one.
So if one of us was to put that 6-barrel brew system in our basement, would you move in rent free?
I'd be tempted.
Andy's asking for a friend.
Before we wrap it up, we got one more beer. So, Kain, you can tell us about that beer, but I want to talk about the Flying Hippo.
The Flying Hippo, all right.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Flying Hippo and the last pour. What do you got for us?
Okay, the last pour I got for you guys is Frederick Miller's Chocolate Lager, right? So this is kind of a seasonal staple.
This is the Christmas one,
This is the Christmas beer, yes, that they always showcase at the holiday lights here on the General Miller Tour. We are the...
Which, by the way, you should come down to Miller Valley and see, because they are spectacular.
We are the only producers of this beer currently.
I remember when this Frederick Miller came out a few years ago, quite a few years ago actually, as a bottled product from Miller. And I think this chocolate one was one of the first. They maybe had 3 or 4 Frederick Miller beers out there. Where is that line at? Is that completely done? Is there any idea about bottling some of the experimental brews that you guys are coming up with?
The Frederick Miller Chocolate Lager was actually released in 2006. It was a one-time release, and that was kind of like during that whole Miller-Coors merger that was going on. So again, it was one of those beers that fell at the wayside, right? Where like, it really was released, and then kind of put it in storage. But we've made it every single year for our local kind of holiday lights and our tour center every year. It only comes from us. We may produce it again commercially, but since 2006, this will be the year that we sell it again. So it's actually going to be sold on select accounts around Milwaukee. Also, our tour center is actually giving crowlers. They're selling crowlers of it, and then of course pouring it on the tour, the newly paid for tour. that they established. So new tour routes and everything.
Nice.
So yeah, it's kind of cool. Now it's finally getting some traction. With that, we've worked with some of the marketing guys. So there's some new beers that we're producing that they may actually pump out to select accounts. So again, I was telling you that IPA we did for third space IPA competition.
Yeah.
That's on the docket to become sellable. So you may be seeing that 2019. We're going to be doing the 1855 from Miller as well, and then one of our dry hopped Hefeweizens.
When we came in here, you had all these set up, these little Flying Hippo for us. Tell us about that and what that means to you.
Okay, so I handed you guys some little like stress relief hippos. Let's say Flying Hippo, Miller Coors on them. So we're currently sitting in the Flying Hippo. And this was a room that was established for meetings, conference rooms. Getting some of our reps in here. Not only that, it's also half of the room is set up for consumer studies. So Uncle Sam, it's got the Uncle Sam cameras watching you for whenever we get consumers kind of
Big Brother.
Big Brother watching, doing their ballots and whatnot. But HIPPO stands for Highly Innovative Product and Packaging Opportunities. So it's kind of the idea of big ideas getting their wings. So we have a mural outside that's the big old hippo with wings kind of taking off, and it's big ideas taking off.
So are there plans within corporate to make Hippo more than it is today?
No, it's kind of just our little
it's just a little
idea.
inside joke?
Yeah, it's our little inside joke, our little idea complex down here.
So we're not going to see the Flying Hippo Brew Pub
No, not at
down
all.
on State.
No.
Though you could recommend that, by the way.
I'd probably first recommend an MVB brew pub, down on State, but
That's a little bit more on target.
Yeah.
So, Kain Escobar, as we wrap this up, everybody wants to know, why exactly would you stick in a position where you're doing experimentation, but you're not actually able to actually sell those beers? Why would you stay in this position as opposed to, sticking it out and creating your own brewery?
So, I mean, at the moment, I think the biggest thing is the knowledge base. I mean, right? Everyone wants to grow themselves and grow their own knowledge and capability, right? So to me, this is a good fundamental place to do that. I mean, I play around with things that small craft brewers can only wish they had, right? Some of the equipment, some of the technology. So it's kind of nice being at the forefront of all those new nuances, kind of coming at you.
Yeah, like we said, you've got the opportunity to work with hops and laboratories and processes that other people have are light years away from. 10 years sometimes away from. So that's got to be a huge advantage in your education and your ability to move on as a brewer once upon a time.
Yeah, of course. I mean, will I be here forever? Probably not, in all honesty. But in this moment, it's always hey, knowledge is power, right? G.I. Joe. No, but but it is in a sense. I mean, you're constantly wanting to learn. You're constantly wanting to build your rapport, and with the local community, with the local knowledge base, and I learned so much from the guys locally on the small craft side. And then I'm able to share what I'm doing on my level to a certain extent, right? But even then, I'm getting hit with all these new innovative technologies and processes, and it's in a sense it's kind of mind blowing sometimes. You're like, wow, I get to do what? So yeah, it is. It's really cool. You're constantly learning. And that's kind of the name of the game, right? If you're not learning, you've stalled out and you're standing at a standstill, right? So.
But at some point, you really want to share this with the public, right?
Oh, of course, and that is
you want to show off,
dude. Yeah, I know. That's my hardest thing that really gets to me all the time is, again, being able to pump out some of these very cool beers. And at the end of the day, it's like, most of them will probably never see the shelf, right?
Yeah.
Even if it was just like a Miller Time Pub release.
And so that is kind of the current opportunities that we're working with our marketing teams. Like I said, we've gotten the right people in place that are really starting to support us. They're putting a lot of attention towards us and fueling that movement. So maybe in the near future, hopefully 2019 will bring a different story, and you'll see a lot of our products, maybe at select accounts.
Well, I mean, to all our listeners, you should definitely any beer festival you're at that Miller Valley is at.
Yeah.
You guys need to check them out.
They won't know, but maybe we'll add a little something to our social media because
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, like I said, any festival I go to, please, you're more than welcome. Stop by, shoot the shit, drink some beers, get some knowledge if you need. I mean, we're very open-ended, very open-booked, and just enjoy some good beers. At the end of the day, it's just drinking good beer. That's the name of the game, right? So,
so we should wrap it up. Thank you so much for your time. So for myself, Jesus,
This is Jim.
Andy here.
Kain.
This is Alex.
this has been another solid non-Phil Productions.